I hope this is working. Alright, the footage is going. Alright. We're here. Me and JB, ADL admins, for Season 2 playoff preview picture. I feel very awkward. I hope my door is closed.
I feel more awkward than Paulo.
I just ate dinner. I had a chicken tender sub from Publix. Pub sub slap.
I had beef ravioli and a,
Oh, my
and a
mouth's
ham
so
sandwich.
Damn, you're on the struggle bus. That's a college meal
I'm
right
just-
there.
I'm just lazy between ordering out way too much and eating very minimal things. But we
Dawn's.
have some playoffs to get to here.
All right, we're gonna jump into Precipice first, and then we're gonna jump into Origin. So let me switch tabs over here. Are you in the stream?
I'm in the stream.
All right. To start with Precipice. This is shouts to Glenn Season 1. Beat my ass in finals. Freaking Mew. Alright, so 2 divisions, so 2 entirely different playoff brackets. We're just gonna jump. Standings. So, first 8th playoff standings are people from 1st to 8th from the regular season make playoffs. First seed plays 8th seed. 2nd, 7th, and then so on and so forth. So, we got 4 matches to start off with. We can just start with our 1st seed versus 8th seed right now. We have Rivet, Atlanta Braviaries versus Pocket Rotom's Hungry Morpicos.
Yes.
Rivet has yet to lose a game. He has been on an absolute tear this season.
Yet to lose a game is a very key way to word that. I appreciate it.
He has not had a perfect season because he is at a tie with JB here, the Georgia Gliscor. What a peculiar game that was.
Came back to haunt me.
Came back to haunt you. Ended in a tie. Why did I add tie and not post the replay? The world may never know. So
yeah, a couple of things that I would note here to start off is that while Tarak was not the kill leader, that Rivet has used it very well this season, and I think it has a lot of good plays that he can make both in this matchup.
It's got 12 kills,
playoffs.
11 differential in 7 games, which in an Uber's league, it's a second highest non-Uber. It's 1 kill short of Danusis' Kirim.
Yep, for sure.
36 differential, kind of nuts. He's got a small rain core. He's got the Uber steel core with Dialga and Genesect. Genesect and he's got a lot of setup. He's got a Coco just chilling. Necrozma for setup. He's got a small rain core with Mega Swampert Pelipper. I don't think he's brought Shedinja yet, which makes me very sad.
It's definitely something you have to respect, though. I mean, even when you're prepping, it just might change that one move slot, which, while that doesn't show in a game, it can show up when they don't have the move they need. I think this is a very kind of... I've seen Rivet play some different teams, and he loves pivoting. He has stuff like Coco and Genesect and even some flip turning here, but I also think that this team has been complemented much better than some of the other ones I've seen him build by
He's
having
got
a lot of bulk, and it's very hard to outlast him.
He's got a lot of different offensive maneuvers you can take with this team, like set up Necrozma, set up Coco just pivoting. Necrozma can be bulky. Genesec's just U-turning on everything and chunking. Dialga, he's brought a lot of the plates or the drives, like Douse plate or Douse drive with Genesect. I think he has Chill drive also. I don't know what they all are. Dialga's been support, stealth rocks, body press sets. Just very bulky.
I think he's done a very good job throughout this season of using different Dialga sets and being unpredictable going into prep for the playoffs.
Yeah. And he's playing Pocket Rotom, who's our 8th seed, 5-4 -7 differential. Had a back and forth season. The team has a lot of bulk. He's got a lot of bulk. It's a very annoying team. Gastrodon, Blissey, Togekiss, Crobat.
I think the biggest thing to The biggest thing is that this team can suffer from a stealth rock weakness, but other than that, first of all, there's multiple defog options, all of which would obviously be able to wear boots. And outside of that, it's a team that's very hard to break without that chip damage. So bringing in a defogger to stop that really prevents, or excuse me, allows Pocket Rotom to get the big hitters in.
Their offense is revolved almost entirely around Metagross and Conkeldurr, even though there's a Kieran Black on the team. So, Genesec's a big problem for this team. Definitely. Genesect, Terrakion actually go kind of crazy. I don't want to get too into like specific matchup stuff, because I don't want to mess up people's prep or anything. If anybody even watches this.
Yeah, but I think it's fair to say, Terrakion does have a good matchup, but, mons like Rotom Heat do have the damage output to either counteract that or try to keep up the tempo against Rivet, which I think will be very key, as I think there's kind of an equal amount of bulk here, so it's going to come down to positioning, which Rivet has been very good at throughout this season for sure.
There'll be a replay from week 1 also, or a rematch. They played first week of the season. Rivet won that game, obviously. Differential wise, how many turns? It was a 5-0, so it was a pretty dominant win in Rivet's favor. So
it's interesting to see that Swampert was brought without the Pelipper.
Yeah. The Beef Man.
Man.
Machoke was brought. I don't know if we'll be seeing a return of that. Sub Dragon needs Kyurem. We only saw Iron Heads. Surprisingly, probably wanted the accuracy of a Meteor match that game. But it'll be interesting for sure.
Yeah, it's always great to see a rematch in the playoffs, and I'm excited to see that. What is our next game, Polo?
Next game. So, our 2nd seed versus our 7th seed. We're going to jump down to the bottom of this bracket here. On the other side of the bracket, we have Blitz versus Bubba Fubba Bubba. Yurt. So, Bubba just 7th seed. He had a kind of a rough start. He kind of pulled it together towards the end. Kind of got in the groove with his team. He's got the Mega Lucario. This other Uber, Dragapult. Dragapult just fits literally everywhere. You can splash it on any team. Mm-hmm. He's ran it special and physical a couple times. He's run a lot of unique sets. Multiple times he's run Scarf Moltres and Banded Swampert. Scarf Moltres is really good at just catching people off guard and just nuking damage.
And it hasn't worked out yet, but I know people should fear that pressure from Moltres. Bubba will make someone pay with it. I think the biggest thing about this team that I've seen Bubba do and makes it very hard to beat is you do have like the minor pivoting type things from Moltres and Swampert, but having a region teleport mon like Slowbro that can either teleport into Dragapult or Lucario, both of which can be either physical or special, make it really hard to prep effectively for this team and to know which walls to switch in. He teleports into Mega Lucario, and you have a Blissey. Like, that could be a very good or a very bad situation, depending on how he decided to build.
You say that, though. However, he's playing Blitz in the first round, who has a Mega Gengar with Shadow Trap. So that's going to throw how Bubba's been playing these games off a lot. A lot of the switching he likes to do and pivoting. He's going to have to find a way to circumvent the Shadow Trap and find a way to deal with that. His Dark type Zarude, which he hasn't brought to a lot of games, which also isn't the greatest against Mega Gengar, who can hit it super effective with Stab. It's extremely fast. It has a lot of Bliss's like entire team and has been built around this Mega Gengar, and he's used it really effectively. He has a lot of pivoting: Torrentee, Hydreigon, Rotom Wash, or Shifu. And then you can pivot into walls that can throw hazards, or just really strong ones like Nidoking and Mega Gengar. Very reminiscent of my Season 1 Marshadow team, where I just throw a whole lot of pivoting with an extremely strong Ghost type. This one's more effective at keeping stuff locked in and forcing items like Shed Shell.
Yeah, in particular, like you're talking about the Mega Gengar.
Bubba does have some pretty strong priority in Mega Lucario for Mega Gengar.
It does.
He also has Klefki, who is very annoying.
Yeah, you can set up screens to try to help something.
Yeah, his hazard game's really good.
Get in and set up. You have good hazards. Just something to note for people listening is that you can U-turn and flip turn out of Shadow Tag, correct?
Yes.
Right, so that's an option, but that usually will involve taking some amount of damage or just allowing Blitz to start getting that damage.
What's good
down.
for Bubba is Dragon Bolt can't be trapped since it's a ghost type, which is really big.
That's correct.
Yeah. And Bubba's team is packed with pivots and hazards.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to make it hard for Blitz to have to play around that.
This will be a very close match. I mean, Blitz, they both played well versus me. And Blitz in particular, I think, is very good at just having solid prep and using that to the best of their ability.
I don't believe this is a rematch. I don't think they've played. Let me check.
I don't believe so either.
No, this won't be a rematch from the regular season. Those are always more fun to watch than actual rematches. Rematches are so stressful to build for. As we'll get into later for my game. But Blitz has had a pretty dominant season. Bubba had a little bit of a rough start, but pulled together towards the end to make that playoff spot. So, that should hopefully be a good game. I'll just see what happens there. Our third game, third seed, we've got Fist with his extremely long team name versus Adam, who is our sixth seed. DC Dragapults versus the mighty Rootin' Tootin'. I don't even know. What is his full team name?
Notably, Fist was able to claim the kill leader in Precipice Division with Yveltal.
19 kills with Yveltal, 14 differential. He 6-0'd me with it week 1.
Yeah, I believe after
just off rip, turn 1.
3 weeks, it was like a plus 15 differential.
Yeah, it was something insane like that.
Like I got 4-0'd when I played Fist, and I think I had the closest margin at that point in time. It was a very strong start, and while Rivet was able to pass for first place, I by no means think it is a significant difference between the two.
The only two people above him in
teams.
Standings are his only 2 losses.
Exactly.
Blitz and Fist. Blitz and Rivet. But, he's got Yveltal. He's got a lot of offense. Yveltal, Kartana, Mamoswine, Zeraora, Volcarona, Primarina. He's got a lot of setup. And he's just very fast. A couple of really fast defensive mons to Kartana and Zeraora. Where we've seen him lose. So pretty strong ground types. Slow King Galar, Mamoswine. Something that's just being able to hit him really hard, like the Yveltal. With Rivet, he had a lot of trouble with the Mega Swampert. Kind of broke through Registeel, and then in the rain, just was a very fast defensive threat. They could hit a lot of his monsters, super effective or neutral, really strong moves. He's playing Adam, who, it's safe to say, Adam's main defense, or offense power, has been that Rayquaza.
It has.
That thing, it hits so hard. Oko to Clefable in his last game, or second to last game.
It did.
It's very strong. It was Euro Clefable, wasn't it?
It was my Clefable, which, you know...
He kind of helped kill your playoff hopes.
Yes, if I beat Adam, I had a win in, and as it was, when I got
he beat me pretty early in the season.
Week,
yeah,
I didn't have a chance to get into the playoffs come last week, so
he's got a lot of bulk and a lot of and Spike Stack with Skarmory, and his main offensive core Rayquaza, Ash Greninja, and Infernape. He hasn't brought Excadrill to too many games.
Yeah, I mean, Fist has a lot of powerful mons and ways to deal with it, but first of all, I've seen Venusaur and Quag and P2. That's like a very strong defensive core combined with pivoting, and I think in this matchup...
It'll be hard, though, against a Yveltal for those 3. Though he does have the Unaware and Quagsire, it is a setup Yveltal.
Yeah, and it's really going to come down to a lot of move and set selection in this game, I believe, because... Fist has, as you said, Yvel, Zaire, Kartana, and
Primarina.
Volcarona, and even Prim those are all mons that can set up and win out of nowhere sometimes. And which Fist
Yeah.
chooses to be set up and which will
Adam
the
has
other
to
set
Adam has
will
to
be
make sure
very
to not
important.
get caught on like the back foot too quickly, because
Yes.
Fist could just like get a little momentum and just take off with it.
Yeah.
Adam's gotta like just off the bat Rayquaza Greninja. If he gets that Greninja, Ash, what is it called? Is it an evolution, a transformation? I don't know what it's called. If it gets that form,
Yeah, it's a form.
yes, speed increases and it'll make it hard. So they played once before. It was a pretty back and forth match until a crit kind of broke through for Fist's side to overpower Adam.
Yes.
So we'll have to see what happens if that crit isn't the case, or if it's a closer game this time, or if one of the other ones just takes off with it.
I mean, I have been crit by not Adams or Quaza, but Rivets last season, and if people seem like, you feel like a crit's unlikely, but if you allow something like Rayquaza to fire off 3 or 4 Dragon Ascents or
Or if you let it like
V3H,
Dragon
the chances
Dance,
yeah,
it can
like,
take
the
off
chances of-
very quickly. Same with Yveltal.
Usually you will get hit by crits in any given game. Someone will get off at least one boosting move, and you have to make sure that you're in a position to deal with it when that happens, because
Especially if Adam brings
will.
webs.
I think that's
But he
also
hasn't
an
too many.
interesting
He hasn't a
option.
lot. It's a charge a bug. It's a charge a bug. But
I
we'll
think
have
the
to
biggest-
see.
Yeah.
All right. Next game. Boston Sceptiles versus Eastwick Espeons, which is me. I'm the Eastwick Espeons, but Denise with Boston Sceptiles. I had an extremely rough start to the season. I went 0-3, minus like 16 differential my first 3 games. But I made a couple transactions, and RCS Flying kind of pulled me through. Denise has had a very, very dominant start to the season, in middle of the season, and he lost a little fuel at the end, which kind of dropped him from 1st seed to 4th seed, especially after that match with Rivet. This is a rematch during the regular season where I won, but it's so hard to prep for Mars Shadow.
It's so to prep for Marshadow. I like the storylines of this one just because obviously you start off 0-3, and also you were the Marshadow player last season.
Yeah.
You made it to finals. So this is definitely a match where you both know each other's teams. You know Marshadow well in particular, and it's going to be a very close game.
Yeah. I'd abuse some Scarf Mons. Mars Shadow with Shadow sneaking priority makes it really hard to... It's just hard to kill, because it can kill you faster.
It can kill you faster, and even very reliable switch-ins. Like I've been playing Ubersun the last few days, and Marshadow can beat something like a Moltres Scour in this instance, or a Yveltal.
Catch
or
it off
like
guard
very
with a Rock
solid-
Doom, or just close combat is so strong against it because of neutral.
Like very solid like ghost switch-ins. First of all, are usually weak to fighting because unless they have another type that resists it.
Type
and-
combo has... The stabs just hit everything, at least super
Yeah.
effectively or neutrally. Except, New Zero Aura, but that's it. And that's not even in the game yet, so...
Yeah, and I mean the biggest thing is that when you look at it, right, it can switch into something like Poltergeist. It can take a close combat, but what's gonna happen is if you roost that off, your opponent is going to get tempo back, and if you attempt to double in order to try to account for that, what's gonna happen is that mon will slowly get chipped. So
He's
even
also
though
got
Marshadow does have checks,
yeah.
it's really hard to keep it going for a long game.
He's also got some strong pivots. He's got Mega Scizor Lando T, which is just really good. And he's got Sticky Webs and Toxic Spikes. And does Weezing Galar get Toxic Spikes, or is that just regular Weezing? I don't know. But he's got a lot of hazards. And then he can pivot into either Marshadow or Kyurem, which have been his 2 biggest offensive threats. Kyurem is the non-Uber in the sleeve, the most amount of kills. So it'll be hard for me. It'd be hard for me to come up with sets again to beat the Marshadow that he doesn't already know about, which is another big aspect of rematches in the first round of playoffs. It's just you go into like the struggle of, do I bring the same tech that I brought the other game? Maybe people save tech in the regular season game in case they played in playoffs, or do
Yeah,
you
I mean,
just have to come up with completely new tech so they don't just counter the old ones?
yeah. I mean, some people do save techs. I personally don't ever try to do that unless I get into a position where I can win the game without it, and I won't click that move. But in general,
Or if you're already locked for playoffs.
you want to win as much as you. Yeah, if you're locked for playoffs, that's one thing. But in general, especially if you're playing early in the season, I think you just have to get the wins when you can.
Yeah, because I had a really strong Arceus set for this game, which kind of punctured a lot of holes in that team. But I'm going to have to face the struggle. Do I bring the set again, or do I bring something else?
Yeah, for the record, Weezingauer does also get toxic spikes.
Okay, I thought so, but I wasn't sure.
I was pretty sure too.
Sticky Webs, the Galvantula, Rocks from Seismitoad, Orlando T, of course. It's going to be, it's hard. Zamazenta doesn't have the greatest coverage. It's got a lot of the fake moves, but it doesn't get Earthquake. Its ground move is Dig. Not that that's the greatest in this game, but he has a lot of Intimidate. I'm not bringing Power Herb. I can't bring Power Herb Zamazenta.
You can't.
I wish I had the other Zamazenta. It's just a little better than the one I had. But those are our first round matches. You want to make any predictions? Oh, well, hold on. I kind of just messed up the doc. There we go.
Obviously, personally, the person I will be rooting for is Rivet, simply because if Rivet goes undefeated and wins the championship,
you'll be his only non-win. Which was
that would just be that would make
he's definitely the favorite in these playoffs.
But he's had close games against plenty of people, like you said. Critting that Registeel with the Earthquake was the difference between having two
potential loss
teams and having an undefeated. Yeah, I mean that's.
I don't know how it would go if it didn't
differently.
Yeah,
right, but that
I'd say Rivet and Blitz. Those three are the biggest playoff favorites: Rivet, Blitz, and Fist. Just being the top 3 seeds, but they've been the most dominant over this season. And Danuse, but Danuse has had a little falter at the end, but he's looked strong the majority of the season besides the 2 games. So we'll have to see what happens. You want to move to Origin Division?
We move to Origin. 2 things as we start Origin. First of all, I would like to have a moment of silence for Gooj's playoff run. It was
Gooj, man. It's not Gooj time. He'll have his day.
Close.
So close.
Gooj will have his day.
If only
the other thing.
If only he wasn't Gooj and managed to win more games, but it happens to the best of us. By the way, 5 different teams ended 5-4, which is insane.
I mean, it was insanely similar in Precipice. I mean, basically, for those
that tie really messed up a lot of the standings.
Yeah, like I was assuming I won my last game of the season, I would have been 4-4-1. Which meant that there were like a lot of people that were 4-4 going into that last week. They could have been
a lot of different stuff could have happened.
Or 4-5. So as you can see there, Origin's a lot more even the Precipice just because you don't have someone that's undefeated. But outside of that, his differential did not end up mattering in that case for me, but for Origin, that was actually very significant, and it's a big indicator of how not giving up on a game that you've already lost can still be very important at the end of the season.
And you say there is no undefeated team, but we have Beater's been pretty dominant. Beater, Vex have been pretty dominant over the course of the season. Our 7-2 teams, only 2 differential separates them.
Yep. I mean, very close.
First seed to 8 seed. We have Beater as our first seed. Vex is our second seed, or 2 other admins. We have Pez at 3rd seed, who took over for Rogers at one point through in the season. Glenn, our previous champion, at 4th seed. We actually found out yet he can lose games, which is a big surprise for me.
I mean, that's just going to go down in the ADL history books. You look back at all these seasons. You can get through 5, 6
season 1,
seasons, and
10
even if Rivet
plus
wins,
30,
like knowing the season can repeat that, and that's such an amazing way to start off.
We have our
league.
5th seed Hag, 6th seed JCK, 7th seed Red, and 8th seed Tempest. So,
Lots of good players, and as I would like to say, there are a lot of good players that did make the playoffs. We mentioned Gouge and also
well,
Celestial, the
you
last
said
admin. I
good
mean,
player and Gouge in the same sentence.
I'm trying to be
Just
respect.
I'm just messing with Gouge. So, Maddie is there on the dock. That is true. He knows he can edit the dock. I don't know if he knows that. But so let's get into our first match, which is gonna be. Okay, so our standings are weird. We've had a couple replacements in Origin. Tempest,
Yes.
who is a replacement for Canberra Camera Ups. I think he came in on like a 0-3 team and brought it to 5-4. I think it was 0-2 or 0-3, and he's our A seed. But player quality wise, he doesn't play like our 8th seed, which is going to be really a tough match for Beater. He beat Beater, and I think the second to last week of the season. But that's our first game.
Yeah.
It's Beater versus Tempest. Beater made semifinals last season. He played me in semifinals. He has our kill leader in Origin, Arceus Water, which has just been his main offensive threat. What even comes close on his team? Zarude, I think. If I can, yeah. It goes from like 18 kills to 6, which is like a smaller disparity for me. I go from like 17 to like 3. But he's been the Arceus Water show.
And it's so easy to see how that kind of thing happens when you have Mons, like Scizor that can pivot, Spectrier that does
Mew that
damage,
can do like
Rotom
anything.
pivots. Yeah, Mew does anything. Hippowdon
Sand
just
chip.
gets that chip. Yeah, so
Thunder
while
Wave,
it looks like
spam.
the Arceus Water show, it's just very easy to clean with Extreme Speed, Judgment, Swords Dance, Calm Mind, whatever you decide to go with. But a lot of that gets
Variety of
enabled
sweeping
by the
sets.
fact that like it's very hard for like a solid grass type to just
Especially with a player as good as
Do a
Peter
lot.
that has that Mon.
yes.
Yeah. And so Tempest, he's had Magearna, Giratina Origin, he's brought a lot of creative sets. He brought Acupressure Drapion, which is now banned. Please don't bring that set again.
Yeah.
Good set though. He brought Flame Charge, Setup Sylvale, however you say it. I think he's brought Throat Spray Excelgor, Final Gambit Excelgor. He's done Pukey Mewtwo things, which is, that happened. But, of course, his Ubers, Magearna and Giratina Origin. Magearna is a setup demon.
Well, Magearna was a acquisition by Tempest. It was dropped by
Yeah,
someone
when he
else, and
changed
so they
his team
pick up after
around.
the team was picked up. So I always like to, especially when you're noting someone taking over a team. Pez just took over after, kind of took the same team, but Tempest was able to improve this roster and take it a long way, which I like to note when players are able to do that.
Yeah. So, that should be a really good match. Just a Tempest bringing the 0-2 team to playoffs and Origin being able to turn that record around from the coach that dropped it before. So,
Beater trying to win a third league this year, for anyone that doesn't know, on a hot streak.
yeah. It's a good thing he can't face me. Hasn't beaten me. But, let's get into our second game. So, second seed, Kalos Demons, Vex, admin, owner of the league, Jordan Powell versus Rolling Applints, which has been red, he's had a shaky season. I didn't even know he had the ability to make playoffs. I think his Ubers are Xerneas and, where is he on here? And Shaman Sky, which, Vex has the Ho-Oh Genesect. He's part of that Genesect show with Rivet. And then Ho-Oh, who is just so hard to kill. And he has a lot of setup sweepers. He's got Zygarde 50. He's got the annoying Hazard game with Weezing, Galar, and Toxapex. He's got T-Tar, who does T-Tar things. His Starmie dies every game and hasn't gotten a kill. It's like, died like 5-6 times. But he's got to figure out how to reel in Xerneas, who can't use Geomancy.
No Geomancy.
A lot of Red's games have revolved around his Mega Aggron, which is his kill leader. Which is very surprising. He's brought Corsola Galar to too many games. Does have webs though, which can help Shaman Sky a lot.
Does have webs. About Vex's team, I will say I had Ho-Oh on my team in Precipice, and I had Zygarde as well. I had Raikou at the tail end of the season, which
Pretty
you can kind
similar
of compare
team
to
to you.
Zeraora.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a Region Mon, but the biggest thing that I wish I did have was my team was very bulky, and while I did have some fast pivots, Raikou after transactions, and Zapdos, I think the strength comes from the fact that something like Genesect as a strong pivot for something like Ho-Oh.
He's got to figure out how to kill the Ho-Oh.
Yeah, like that's having a fast pivot like that that's versatile, I think is a lot better.
Yeah.
And Ho-Oh Toxapex as the double region core is hard to play against.
Really hard to just kill. He's got Tangela too. But
yeah,
it's still a Tangela.
It's gonna take multiple. It's gonna take multiple mons.
Yeah, he's got to make sure. Vex has to watch out for setup spam, Dragonite. He does have the Shadow Trap component, but he's barely brought it to like any games, like Gothitelle. So he might not feel comfortable using it, or he might have had trouble using it. But I can't play Factor in that matchup.
Yeah.
Though Vex has a lot of good ways to deal with it. U-turn, Genesect, a lot of pivots.
A lot of pivots, and even in the correct situations, and Toxapex does have the ability to sit on it. Ho-Oh may or may not. You have different ways. Ho-Oh has Whirlwind to force Gothitelle out. So, while it does have some good utility, I think that Vex does have tools to deal with it if needed.
Doesn't want to take repeated Brave Birds or Sacred Fires also.
No. I mean, you get
those hit hard.
Those hit very hard.
He's also brought it offensively a lot too.
Yeah, much more than I had, just because my team was more bulky, and Vex has been able to take care of, make use of this offensive Ho-Oh, because you have Toxapex to fall back on as your bulky water. I had Slowking, and then you have Tyranitar, and also Zygarde, both as like very strong setup options.
Ho also doesn't care as much about Sand Chip with the Regenerator that he has a lot of on his team.
Yeah, it doesn't care about Sand Chip, and in a pinch, if you want to run something offensive, you have Starmie or something like that to potentially spin hazards away if rocks get up.
Yeah, this is also, I think this is a rematch from the season, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, or I think Vex won pretty handedly, so Red will have to hit the books, figure out his game plan for that. Hopefully it should be a good game. Let's get into our next game. Third seed, we have Pez, retirement U-turn. That was from Rogers, who had to drop for some medical reasons. Hopefully he's back next season. But he'll be playing JCK, Detroit Dragons, who's been a new addition to us this second season. And their teams, Pez has the Marshadow. It's another Marshadow team. The way our tiering works, if you have one of the stronger Ubers and the 25-point tier, you can't run it with another Uber. But the other tiers, you can run 2 Ubers depending on how the points work out.
Mm-hmm.
But roster-wise, yeah. What were you gonna say?
I was just saying, basically, if you take that second lowest tier at 24, your other Uber has to be the lowest tier, and it kind of works your way in. So
yeah,
if you have a 24-pointer, it kind of feels more lopsided, but you can see some of that with the way these teams are built. For instance, with that Xerneas and Shaman Sky, that's a good example from our last game.
Yeah. So it's also works with JCK's team. He's got Mega Salamence and Ash Greninja, and just like his actual mascot or logo that isn't actually on this doc, JCK, please send me your team logo. He's got Mega Salamence, who's been his mascot mon. That mon is almost kill leader. That's a lot of his offense. I think once it gets going, it's really hard to stop. He's a very offense-heavy player. He likes to play fast. He likes to hit fast, hit strong, which is very clear with Mega Salamence, Ash Greninja, Melmetal, and then he's got a Sand Core with Baby Hippo, Dracozolt, and T-Wave spam, hazards. He's got a pretty straightforward game plan, but he can be very hard to stop it.
Yeah, I mean, Salamence can run mix sets, it can run physical. You have a lot it can do, and
Lopez
has options. You're using something like Double Edge you might say Heatran to switch in. You could switch in Raikou, but it also can run Earthquake. So if you're guessing right, there's not a lot that can switch into a Salamence, especially if it has a boost.
Yeah. So Pez's team, he has a bit more of a balanced team. He's got his offensive firepower in Marshall Latios. He has some defensive pivots. He's got Porygon 2 and Lando T. That Lando T can be offensive or defensive, but it works really well as a defensive pivot. That Intimidate really good for Mega Salamence. He's got Piloswine, so he can throw out Ice Shards, get rocks up. He's really good against JCK's strong Dragon types and Dracozolt and Mega Salamence. Got a lot of hazards. JCK, if Pez does bring the Zoroark, he's got to play around that, which is a nightmare, by the way. I hate playing against that thing. But
yeah,
JCK has to figure out how to not get ran over very quickly by Marshadow, which is a good thing for Greninja that it does resist Shadow Sneak. But, it's still Marshadow, so he's got to figure that out. Yeah.
I mean, I think there's some good bluffs you can do with Zoroark. Whether or not he chooses to bring it, it's interesting. You have Double Intimidate. You have, I think Lando T is going to be a very important piece here.
Oh, for sure.
It
is every game.
Hit out, but the biggest thing that I would note here is, we talk about Ubers like Rayquaza and Ho-Oh that are they can be really hard hitters, but they can also, they have the option to wear boots. Salamence as a Mega, it doesn't have that option,
nope.
So I think getting rocks up is very significant in this game, and it can play a big role because...
For sure.
You look at JCK's team, not that there aren't options, but you don't have as strong of a defogger or a spinner as a lot of teams choose to have. And I think that's definitely a good tempo advantage that Pez can get, especially creating chip for the heavy hitters on that side.
Yeah, he's got to do a lot of item scouting. JCK does. Figure out what that Marshadow is running, what that Latios is running, the Landorus. So that should be a good game. Let's get to our next game. Our last game on the document for the first round of playoffs. We have the Gujar Gang, which is Glenn, our champion from last season, versus Heg, the Philadelphia 6-0ers. So, Glenn has been rocking the Arceus Dragon and Mega Alakazam. He has Psy Spam with Lele Mega Zam. He's got some bulky water types, bulky Incineroar. He's got some bulky pivots that like Corviknight, Incineroar, Serena, Blastoise, which can get in his Arceus Dragon, Mega Zam, and Tapu Lele, which has been his offensive core. Psy Spam. Heg has Mega Lucario, which hits so hard, and then he's got the Sheer Force Landorus Incarnate, which is his other Uber. Heg's team has a lot of pivots. Scizor, Slowbro, Torn, Blissey can pivot.
I think this definitely might end
pivot heavy team.
Pivot heavy and might be the fastest game in Origin. I
might be the fastest game in Origin. This or the Pez JCK game.
One of the two. I mean, Glenn drafts such interesting teams, and it's very different.
It's always got that Audino.
But Glenn was on the turn, and I think it allowed him to craft a very strong team. The first pick was Arceus Dragon, Alakazam Mega, as you can see, and that was just when I saw that, I just loved seeing the picks on the wheel for Glenn, and it allowed very solid combination of mons. For instance, as we see when Lele came back, it created that Psy Spam core, and you have mons that can break those steals as well on Glenn's team.
I'm trying to see if this is a rematch. Okay, so this isn't a rematch. I didn't mention before, the JCK Pez one is a rematch. Pez won that during the regular season. But, yeah, Heg's got all the pivots, and then he gets his offensive mons. Mega Lucario, Darmg, Landorus. He's got the double Genies. He's got to find... If that Mega Lucario gets set up, Glenn has to find a way to deal with it. Thankfully, he does have him on, Corviknight, which is still really hard. He can have the Unburdened Hitmonlee, which can provide some trouble for Heg, but he does have some strong flying types.
You can. I think Corviknight is definitely one of Glenn's most important mons here, just because while Darm G isn't necessarily my favorite mon to use in Draft League or just in general, it's obviously in Ubers and most non-draft formats, but here I think it actually does a lot of work, and you don't have a lot of good U-turn resists without that Corviknight. If the Corviknight gets broken, I think this game is heavily in Heg's favor.
Yeah. Glenn does have some good hazards, which is really good against Storm G, because he doesn't ever want to hardly run boots. He always wants to run a choice item. Wheezing T-Spikes. He's got Stealth Rush from Swampert. Intimidate Mons he's going to have to deal with. So, one of the more interesting games. Heg does have hazards and sticky webs, and with the Shuckle, that'll be important for Corviknight or Blastoise to get rid of. Glenn does have some setup options. He's got Shell Smash Blastoise, Nasty Plot Zam. There is an Arceus, so that'll be difficult. If it gets a Sword Stance up with its priority, it can Fire Move to blast a Scizor. So it's one of the more interesting games. It'll be very set dependent on what they bring. They can both bring a lot of sets.
I think one of Incineroar's strongest traits here, especially in a game that we're talking about being so fast and so razor sharp, is, like I like playing chess, and a lot of times a piece sacrifice, sacrificing a mon that can give you a lot of advantage, and something like letting Incineroar take chip to get off a parting shot and get you into a good position to set up or get a lot of damage down, I think can be very important, just like a teleport Slowbro from Heg's side could be. That's the sort of, I think both these teams are very offensive, but their bulkier mons have a lot of strong tempo plays that can be made and will decide the game.
Definitely. But those are our playoff games. Beater definitely the favorite. I think him and Vex are pretty much the favorites for that, but there's a lot of good players, so we'll have to see what happens.
I can just see almost anyone coming out of this bracket. You could have something like
they'd have to play each other before
Beater.
finals if they win their first round matchups, though. Beater and Vex do, so we'll have to see what happens. No, never mind. They're on different sides of the bracket. I'm dumb. Ignore that. They'd have to play in finals. I'm smart.
You could have something like that, or you could have something, like Glenn versus Pez. This could be like a very interesting bracket that I'm looking forward to watching, and I'm so glad we get to watch two entirely different sets of playoffs this season.
Hopefully I can be in there. I just jinxed myself. Anyways, thanks for joining our first round playoff preview. I hope this recording
worked. Sign up for the team tourney if you haven't. Both of us are.
Sign-ups aren't out yet. It'll be out after the regular season, but
I mean, if you weren't planning on playing, you should play.
Definitely. But thanks for stopping by. I still don't know how to close off videos. I'm like waving at the mic right now.
Video.
Doses.